All I want is a room somewhere far away from the cold night air, with one enormous chair. Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? Hello, Booktube. My name is Juan. I am just one reader, and I am having a shit ton of coffee right now. That's why I am in this kind of weird mood. But anyway, I'm here with some book reviews. So these are going to be book reviews for books numbers 12, 13, and 14 that I have read so far in 2019. And I will try not to ramble for way too long. So I think I've actually done individual videos for all three of these books. So that's good because since I've already mentioned them, I've already talked about them in here, I guess I will be able to keep things brief in this video. I don't think so. But anyway, book number 12 of 2019 for me was Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. I read it in the beautiful Everyman's Library edition, and I loved this book beyond belief. Like, I certainly had some very high expectations when I started reading this because it is one of those foolproof kind of books. Well, not foolproof because it is a dangerous book. It's a book that has a reputation. It has a reputation of being one of the best books ever written, one of the best novels ever written in English and in any language, I guess. It has this kind of big literature reputation, and for good reason. But it's also had a reputation for being controversial, and I've heard some people talk about it being like sensationalist and like trying to provoke the reader way too much. So it has a weird reputation, but it is Lolita after all. And I wanted to read this book for many reasons, for all of those reasons actually, because it is a big, one of those top 20 books of all time that you have to read. And in my journey as a reader, I really have been wanting to read that kind of book lately. I've been reading books that are not necessarily classics, but modern classics lately, such as Catcher in the Rye, this one. I've been reading older classics such as The Picture of Dorian Gray. I've been trying to read more of those kind of important reads lately, and by lately I mean in the past couple of years. And so I just wanted to continue my education in literature by reading Lolita, and I am so glad that I did because this book is wonderful. I gave it 4.5 stars instead of a 5-star rating, just because I feel like this book is so dense and so full of things that there's no way that just by reading it once I could have appreciated it enough. Like in just one reading, I was able to love it and to appreciate it and to dig deep and deeper into many things. But I feel like this is a book that you have to read many times in order to get out of it what really is in here. So I really loved it, and it was a great learning experience for me. It really challenged me as a reader. It got me thinking, it got me feeling, it got me doing a lot of research. There's a lot of wonderful interviews and lectures and videos and interviews, and I already said interviews. Reviews and opinions of people that I researched while I was reading this book, and once I finished reading the book, that really enriched my experience. So I would highly recommend Lolita if you are looking into having one of those big learning experiences in your own reading. Moving on, we have the Bookshop book by Jen Campbell. This was book number 13 that I read this year. This is a nonfiction sort of encyclopedia of the world's most interesting independent bookstores. Jen Campbell, who is our very own booktube personality, Jen Campbell, goes around the globe and she explores all these different kinds of bookstores, very small places, really huge places. There's a lot of eccentricity, and there's a lot of quirky people that appear in this book. The people who own the bookshops, the people who decide to live a life of bookselling. It also covers some other areas. It doesn't just go into being an encyclopedia of bookshops around the world. It also is a compilation of interviews with authors, with booksellers, with readers, with people who are interested in books and that have been affected, deeply affected by books and bookselling. This book was everything to me. It's not a perfect book because for me, I mean, because there were some things that maybe I wanted more information about, like some information about bookshops in New York or in Mexico City, which is where I live. But all in all, this is a pretty perfect version of what it's trying to be. And more than anything else, I really, really enjoyed reading this book because it is one of those rare books that give you joy and happiness, and it's very strange, very rare for me to come across a book that gives me this unadulterated joyful feeling of, man, I am so happy to be alive, and I am so happy that I am a reader, and I'm so happy that I can be a part of, you know, this community of readers around the world. And it just made me feel like I am a part of a bigger group, of a bigger thing than just me. It gave me hope about the world, and it's such a wonderful read because it's full of love. It's such a loving, loveful book. Every single person that appears in this book is so loving, and you can feel their love for what they do and for books and for the life that they have chosen to lead. It's wonderful, and yeah, after reading this, I think I will very soon read 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Hanff, which is a book about book selling and people who are involved in the business of books. And it's a book that I own and that I've been wanting to read forever, but I just haven't plucked up the courage to actually pick it up. That's mainly because Helen Hanff has written, well, many other books, but one of her books I read a couple of years ago, and it's one of my favorite books of all time, Apple of My Eye, which is a memoir about New York City. And it's one of my favorite books ever. And I haven't wanted to go back to this author because I'm just afraid that if I like that book more than Apple of My Eye, it will feel like a betrayal. So, you know, but I reading the Bookshop book made me realize that I do want and need to read more nonfiction about books and the book industry. So I gave the Bookshop book 4 stars. It's just a warm, amazing, really interesting read. I need more coffee, man. Fucking addiction. And finally, I just this morning finished Stranger Things Happen by Kelly Link. This is a collection of short stories, and Kelly Link is one of America's most celebrated short story authors. Wait, is she American? I think she's American. I'm pretty sure that she is. But never mind. This is a very strange collection. How can I say this? I think it's unrealistic of me to not compare this collection to her other collection that I have read, which is Magic for Beginners. And Magic for Beginners is one of my favorite books. It's not only one of my favorite collections, it's one of my favorite books, period. It's a book that I picked up like 3 or 4 years ago, and I have the best memories of reading that book. And well, I just have a lot of good feelings attached to that book. So anyway, I think it's really hard for me not to compare that book with this one, Stranger Things Happen. And I think that is a little bit unfair to this book, but it's just the truth. It's just the way it is. And it's just the way the cookie crumbles. And if I'm being completely honest, I think there's no comparing these two books. Magic for Beginners is a wonderful collection. Every single story in that collection is absolute gold. I can remember pretty much all the stories in that collection, and there's one story in particular, Stone Animals, which is just outstanding. Well, there are many. I can remember many of them. And this one was tough. I enjoyed reading it. I enjoyed reading certain parts of certain stories, but I feel kind of conflicted because, as I said, I enjoyed reading certain parts of certain stories. However, I couldn't say that there was one story that I really loved as an entity. I enjoyed many things of all the stories, but I couldn't really say that I fell in love with one story. There were stories that I didn't like. There were stories in here that I thought were kind of meaningless, but not in a good way, just sort of meaningless for the purpose, for the sake of being meaningless. And I don't like that. And don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of magical realism, and Kelly Link is really good at it, but I don't know. I guess this collection was more you can definitely see how Magic for Beginners is a collection that is more mature, and this one I think is a previous collection. I think Magic for Beginners was written after this one. I think so. This was written in 2001. So yeah, probably Kelly Link has developed as a writer. That's what I want to say. And I can definitely see glimmers of wonderful prose and wonderful magical realism in here. And I liked it, but it's not my favorite short story collection. It's not my favorite book. I am giving it like 2.5 stars, maybe 3 stars, just because I can definitely see the Kelly Link that I know and love is in here somewhere, but I would overall not recommend this book. I would recommend Magic for Beginners, and or if you want to read some good magical realism, maybe I would recommend some Amy Bender. I feel like there's a big overlap between Amy Bender and Kelly Link. And also Karen Russell. I think Karen Russell is better. I just love Karen Russell's writing and humor, and I feel like Kelly Link, at least in this collection, there was nothing really remarkable to me about the prose or the use of well, there are certain parts of certain stories that are hilarious and that are really kooky and quirky and really colorful, but as a whole, the collection was just not the best. So, yeah. So, to sum up, I am giving Lolita 4.5 stars, and from 1 to 10, I would give it a 9. The Bookshop book by Jen Campbell, I am giving 4 stars, and from 1 to 10, I would give it maybe also a 9. And Stranger Things Happen by Kelly Link, I would give it 2.5, 3 stars, and from 1 to 10, I would give it maybe a 6.5. And those are books numbers 12 through 14 that I've read so far this year. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what have you been reading lately, and I will see you on the next video.